My son excluded me from his wedding, then demanded I hand over my farm as his free honeymoon resort, so I had federal marshals serve him papers at his office. I'm Bill Davis, and for 33 years, Egan has called me an embarrassing vegetable farmer. Last week, he phoned with his usual arrogance. Dad, Amanda and I need your farm for our honeymoon. 3 weeks. We'll move in after the wedding. No invitation, no respect, just entitlement. Here's what Egan doesn't know. His simple farmer father owns the patents that power his entire company. Technogrow Solutions has been paying my agricultural corporation $2.3 million annually since 2021. Every bonus Egan earned, every stock option he bragged about, every promotion he celebrated, all built on innovations I developed while he told Silicon Valley colleagues I grow tomatoes. The delicious irony? Egan's been signing the licensing checks himself for 3 years, never bothering to research who Davis Agricultural Holdings actually was. Too busy being ashamed of his farmer dad to recognize his own last name on federal patent documents. When Egan announced he was using my life's work as his vacation playground, I made one phone call. Federal marshals don't visit hobby farmers, son. This story gets wild, and I know you'll want to hear how it ends. Hit that subscribe button and drop a comment telling me where you're watching from. I love connecting with viewers who understand that respect isn't optional. But first, let me tell you about the day my son learned what his embarrassing father really does for a living. The disrespect started years ago, but it crystallized at last December's Technogrow Solutions holiday party. Egan invited me as his +1, not as his father, mind you. When his colleagues asked what I did, Egan said, he grows things. That's it. 3 words to summarize 33 years. His boss asked, what kind of farming? Egan shrugged. You know, vegetables, crops, regular farm stuff. The man nodded politely and moved on. I watched Egan's relief that the conversation was over. But the real slap came 3 months ago during wedding planning. Egan and Amanda were discussing the guest list at my kitchen table, the same table where I'd helped Egan with homework, college applications, and his first business plan. We need to trim the list, Amanda said, scrolling through her laptop. The Ritz-Carlton charges per head. What about your dad? Egan asked. Amanda didn't look up. Obviously he's invited. My father's the venture capital partner hosting the reception. I meant my dad? This time she did look up, looked right at me sitting 10 feet away. Egan, we can't have farmers at the Ritz-Carlton. It's a professional event. Egan nodded. Actually nodded. Dad, it's complicated. You wouldn't understand the dynamics. I understood plenty. I understood that my son was ashamed of the man who'd paid for his Stanford education. The man who'd co-signed his first apartment lease when his credit was non-existent. The man who'd given him $50,000 to invest in Technogrow stock options back when the company was 3 guys in a garage. But I stayed quiet, like I always do. See, our farm sits on 847 acres in California's Central Valley. From the road it looks simple enough. Old farmhouse, weathered barns, fields stretching to the horizon. Egan sees what he wants to see, his father's little hobby. What he doesn't see are the advanced greenhouse facilities hidden behind the main barn, the climate-controlled growing environments, the research labs where we develop drought-resistant genetics, the computer systems tracking agricultural futures in real time. What he definitely doesn't see is my home office, where framed certificates line the walls, certificates Egan has never bothered to read, like the Federal Agricultural Advisory Board appointment letter from 2019, or the patent awards dating back to 1998. Last week, Egan drove up in that Tesla, license plate Tech VP1, wearing his $8,000 Rolex. He parked next to my 15-year-old Ford pickup and shook his head like I was the family embarrassment. Dad, you should upgrade. Image matters. I asked what was wrong with my truck. It's ancient. What will Amanda's family think? They won't see it. I'm not invited, remember? He had the grace to look uncomfortable. It's not personal. Then what is it? Professional. You wouldn't fit in. There's that phrase again. Fit in. Like success only comes in one flavor, and it tastes like venture capital and stock options. But here's what Egan doesn't know about fitting in. I've been fitting into boardrooms and federal committees for decades. While he was learning to code, I was learning patent law. While he was disrupting markets, I was creating them. The irony is beautiful, really. Egan's so concerned about image, about appearing self-made, about distancing himself from his simple farmer father. He tells everyone he built his career from nothing. Meanwhile, his company, the company that pays his $200,000 salary and million-dollar bonuses, has been licensing my intellectual property since 2021, but I've never told him. never corrected the narrative, let him believe what he wants. Until last Tuesday's phone call changed everything. My wife Margaret died 8 years ago, but her voice still echoes in my head during moments like these, especially her last words to me in the hospital. Don't let Egan take us for granted, Bill. Make him see what we built. Margaret understood what Egan doesn't. This farm represents more than dirt and crops. It represents legacy, innovation. 33 years of building something meaningful. But if I stay silent now, if I let Egan treat my life's work as his personal vacation rental, I lose more than just respect. I lose everything Margaret and I worked for. The financial stakes are massive. Our 847 acres carry a current assessed value of $180 million. That's not farmland pricing, that's development potential, water rights, and intellectual property combined. Egan thinks he's inheriting some farm. He has no idea he's potentially inheriting a fortune, but the inheritance comes with conditions. Margaret and I structured our family trust carefully. Egan receives everything only if he demonstrates genuine respect and understanding of the family legacy. Our attorney made the language crystal clear. Disrespect voids the inheritance. Egan's been walking a tightrope for years without knowing it. The social stakes matter, too. I serve on the Federal Agricultural Advisory Board with some of the most respected names in American agriculture. These aren't country bumpkins. They're CEOs of major food corporations, university research directors, and policymakers who shape national food security. They know who Bill Davis is. They know what Davis Agricultural Holdings has contributed to American farming. When Egan dismisses me as someone who grows vegetables, he's not just insulting me. He's insulting colleagues who respect what we've built here. But the professional stakes run deepest. Technogrow Solutions, Egan's precious company, built their competitive advantage on drought-resistant genetics. Their marketing materials boast about revolutionary agricultural technology and breakthrough crop yields. What they don't advertise is where that technology came from. U.S. Patent 8734521. Drought-resistant corn genetics. Filed March 15, 2018. Patent holder, William Davis, Davis Agricultural Holdings. U.S. Patent 9126783. Enhanced root development in wheat varieties. Filed August 2, 2019. Same patent holder. 23 patents total. All related to crop genetics, sustainable farming, and agricultural efficiency. Technogrow has been licensing these patents since 2021, paying Davis Agricultural Holdings $2.3 million annually in royalties. Egan's company literally cannot function without my intellectual property. His stock options, tied to company performance that depends on my innovations. His promotion to senior vice president, based on successful deployment of agricultural technologies I developed. His entire career, built on a foundation he doesn't even recognize. The cruel irony is that Egan's lifestyle, the Palo Alto condo, the Tesla, the $8,000 watch, all depends on income generated by the father he's ashamed to acknowledge. But if I don't establish boundaries now, the pattern continues. Egan takes what he wants, dismisses what he doesn't understand, and assumes family resources exist for his convenience. The farm becomes his personal playground. My reputation becomes collateral damage for his image management. My life's work becomes a footnote in his success story. Margaret would never forgive me for allowing that. More importantly, I'd never forgive myself. So when Egan called last Tuesday with his casual demand to use the farm as a honeymoon resort, something shifted. Not anger. I'm past anger. Something colder, more final. Egan was about to learn that assumptions have consequences, and sometimes those consequences come with federal badges. The call came at 11:47 a.m. I was in the south greenhouse checking soil pH levels when my phone rang. "Dad, it's Egan." His voice carried that brisk executive tone he uses with vendors. "I need to discuss something with you." "I'm listening." "Amanda and I have been planning our honeymoon. Originally we wanted the Ritz-Carlton in Maui, but the presidential suite runs $2,800 a night." I waited. Egan loves building, to his point. "So we thought, why not use the farm? It's got that rustic charm Amanda's been talking about. Authentic American countryside. Perfect for Instagram." "For how long?" 3 weeks, maybe a month if we like it." I set down my pH meter. "And you'll pay rent?" Egan laughed, actually laughed. "Dad, it's family property." "It's my property." "Same thing." "Is it?" His tone shifted, became that patient voice he uses with people he considers slow. "Don't be difficult. I'm asking a simple question. What about asking nicely? I'm not 12 years old. And don't act like it. Silence. Then, fine, please, there. Happy now. Why the farm specifically? I told you, Amanda wants rustic, authentic, something that doesn't scream Silicon Valley money. What does it scream instead? What do you mean? When Amanda posts her Instagram photos from Egan's family farm, what story does that tell? I don't follow. Of course he didn't. Nothing, Egan. Continue. The thing is, we need privacy. Complete isolation. Amanda's family has media connections, so there might be photographers trying to get honeymoon shots. Paparazzi. Her father's venture capital firm just closed a $2 billion deal. Amanda's been in Forbes twice this year, so yeah, we need somewhere completely off the grid. I walk to the greenhouse window, looking out over land Egan thinks he understands. What makes you think the farm is off the grid? Dad, come on. It's the middle of nowhere. No fancy hotels, no tourist attractions. Just fields and cows. We don't have cows. Whatever. Crops. Same difference. Same difference. 33 years of research and development, and it's all same difference to my son. What about compensation for disrupting farm operations? What operations? It's March. Nothing grows in March. I almost smiled. Egan's business acumen, so sharp in tech, so ignorant in agriculture. Actually, March is our busiest month. Spring preparation, soil testing, equipment maintenance, seed selection. Dad, please, we both know farming isn't that complicated. There it was. The dismissal I'd been expecting. The casual assumption that my life's work requires no skill, no knowledge, no expertise worth respecting. What does Amanda's family think about the farm? They love the idea. Her mother said it sounds wonderfully authentic. Her father called it charmingly simple. Charmingly simple, like a museum exhibit. Visit the quaint farmer and his simple life. Have you told them about the agricultural research we do here? What research? Egan, we hold 23 patents. We develop drought-resistant genetics. We work with federal agricultural committees. Dad, don't exaggerate. You grow things. That's fine. That's honest work. But let's not pretend it's rocket science. Let's not pretend. My son, the beneficiary of agricultural innovations he doesn't recognize, telling me not to pretend my work matters. So you want to use the farm for free? It's family. And families don't charge each other? Exactly. Interesting perspective. Did you charge me rent when I co-signed your apartment lease? That's different. How? I was just starting out. You were helping me establish credit. And the $50,000 I gave you for Technogrow stock options? Pause. Dad, where is this going? Just remembering all the times family helped family. For free. Right, so you understand. I understand that you've been taking family help for granted your entire adult life. That's not fair. Isn't it? Stanford tuition, apartment deposits, startup capital, career advice, all free, all family. You wanted to help. I did, just like you want help now. So we're good? I looked out at the fields Egan dismisses as simple. Fields that generate millions in patent royalties. Fields that support agricultural research he's never bothered to learn about. We'll see, Egan. What does that mean? It means I'll think about it. Dad, the wedding is in 3 weeks. We need to finalize plans. Then you better hope I think fast. I hung up before he could respond. For the first time in years, Egan didn't get an immediate yes from his father. The man he considers a pushover had just pushed back. He had no idea what was coming next. The next morning, I was drinking coffee on the front porch when the mail truck arrived. Not our regular postal service. This was a federal courier with a Washington, D.C. return address. "Morning, Mr. Davis," the courier said. "Federal Agricultural Advisory Board correspondence." I signed for the certified envelope as Egan's Tesla pulled into the driveway. Perfect timing. Egan climbed out, checking his phone. He glanced at the federal vehicle with mild curiosity. "More farmer stuff?" he asked as the courier drove away. I held up the envelope with its official seal and government letterhead. Something like that. What do they want now? Committee meeting next week. We're reviewing patent applications for drought-resistant soybeans. Egan nodded absently, already losing interest. Sounds riveting. If only he knew. The patent applications under review included 3 from major agricultural corporations, worth hundreds of millions in licensing potential. But Egan saw government mail and thought bureaucratic paperwork. We walked toward the house together. Egan's phone rang. "This is Egan Davis, Technogrow Solutions." His voice immediately shifted to executive mode. Right, the quarterly report. Yes, I saw the revenue projections. I listened while unlocking the front door. Revenue projections. Egan loved talking numbers when they made him look good. Agricultural technology licensing is up 18% this quarter, Egan continued. Our drought-resistant genetics are outperforming competitors across all metrics. Our genetics. I almost laughed. Egan followed me into the kitchen, still talking. The patents we're licensing give us significant competitive advantages. Cost savings alone justify the licensing fees. I opened the federal envelope while Egan discussed patent licensing, my patents, with someone who clearly impressed him. $2.3 million annually in licensing costs, Egan said, but the ROI is substantial. These agricultural innovations generate over $15 million in additional revenue per year. $2.3 million, the exact amount Technogrow pays Davis Agricultural Holdings. Egan finished his call and pocketed the phone. Work stuff. Boring financial details. Didn't sound boring. You mentioned patents? Yeah, we licensed some agricultural technology. Genetic modifications for crop yields. Pretty standard stuff. Standard stuff. My life's work, reducing crop failures and feeding millions of people, dismissed as standard stuff by my son. Do you know who holds those patents? Egan shrugged. Some agricultural company. Davis something. Common name. Davis something. He literally didn't recognize his own last name on the patent documentation his company used daily. Davis Agricultural Holdings, I said quietly. That's the one. Why? I could have told him right then. Could have ended the charade with a simple explanation. Egan, that's our company. Those are my patents. Your career depends on my innovations. Instead, I folded the federal letter and put it in my desk drawer. The drawer containing 23 patent certificates Egan had never bothered to examine. Just curious about your work. Egan relaxed. The agricultural sector is fascinating from a business perspective. These patent holders are brilliant, developing solutions for global food security while maintaining competitive licensing structures. Brilliant patent holders. If only he knew he was talking about his father. My computer chimed with an incoming email. Egan glanced at the screen as I opened the message. Dad, why is your computer tracking NASDAQ agricultural futures? Good question. Because Davis Agricultural Holdings trades commodities as a hedge against patent revenue fluctuations. But Egan wouldn't understand the complexity. I like staying informed about crop markets. That's pretty sophisticated for a small farm. I read a lot. Egan nodded, accepting the explanation that confirmed his assumptions. His father, curious about markets he couldn't possibly understand, playing with financial tools beyond his expertise. The email was from our corporate attorney. Bill, the Technogrow licensing agreement renewal is ready for your signature. Terms remain favorable. $2.3 million annually with built-in escalation clauses. I closed the email before Egan could read it. Business correspondence? Egan asked. Equipment supplier. Boring farmer stuff. Dad, can I ask you something? Sure. Do you ever regret not doing more with your life? The question hit like a physical blow. Not doing more. With patents worth hundreds of millions, with federal appointments, with agricultural innovations feeding millions. What do you mean? I mean, don't you wonder what you could have achieved with a real education? Real opportunities? Real education. I had a PhD in agricultural sciences from UC Davis and postgraduate work in biochemistry. But Egan saw a farmer in work boots and assumed ignorance. Sometimes, I said, it's not too late. You could take some business courses, learn about modern agriculture. Maybe we could find you consulting work with real agricultural companies. Real agricultural companies. Like Davis Agricultural Holdings, which employed 43 researchers across 3 states. I'll think about it. I could introduce you to people, help you network. That's generous. Egan smiled, pleased with his condescending offer to help his father join the real world. He had no idea the real world was about to introduce itself to him. 3 days later, Egan called with panic in his voice. Dad, I forgot the Morrison contract at home. Can you bring it to my office? I need it for a 2:00 meeting. I found the documents on his kitchen counter, right next to the wedding invitations he'd been stuffing. 200 elegant cards for the Ritz-Carlton reception. None addressed to me. The Technogrow building in Palo Alto rises 12 stories of glass and steel, all Silicon Valley ambition and venture capital dreams. I parked my 15-year-old pickup between a Tesla and a BMW, feeling like exactly what Egan's colleagues expected. The country relative visiting the big city. The lobby gleamed with marble floors and abstract art. The receptionist looked at my work boots and flannel shirt with barely concealed confusion. "I'm here to see Egan Davis. I'm his father." Her expression shifted to polite surprise. "Oh, Mr. Davis. Egan's mentioned you." I doubted that, but smiled anyway. "Just delivering some documents." "He's in the executive dining room, 12th floor." The elevator rose through floors of open-concept workspaces filled with young people in expensive casual clothes. Everyone looked busy and important. Everyone looked like they belonged in ways I apparently didn't. The 12th floor dining room buzzed with lunchtime conversation. Floor-to-ceiling windows offered stunning views of San Francisco Bay. Everything felt deliberately impressive, designed to remind visitors they were in the presence of success. I spotted Egan at a corner table with 5 colleagues, all laughing at something on someone's phone. He looked up as I approached, and his expression shifted from amusement to poorly concealed embarrassment. "Dad, you made it!" He stood, accepting the documents. "Everyone, this is my father, Bill." A blonde woman in a designer suit smiled brightly. "The famous farmer. Egan's told us so much about you." "Amanda Sterling," Egan said. "My fiancée." So this was Amanda, the woman who decided farmers didn't belong at the Ritz-Carlton. She looked exactly like her voice had sounded, polished, confident, and completely comfortable with her superiority. "It's wonderful to finally meet you," Amanda continued. "Egan says you have a lovely little farm." 847 acres, I said. "How quaint. How, like a real working farm?" "Something like that." A thin man in wire-rimmed glasses leaned forward. "I'm curious about modern farming techniques. Do you use GPS-guided tractors? Precision agriculture?" Egan laughed. "Dad's more old school, aren't you, Dad? Traditional methods." "Traditional methods. Like the GPS-guided equipment in our south barn and the precision soil monitoring systems throughout our fields. I try to stay current," I said. "That's sweet," Amanda said. "There's something romantic about the simple life, don't you think? Away from all this corporate complexity." She gestured around the dining room like she was displaying the crown jewels. This corporate complexity that apparently required such sophisticated minds to navigate. "Actually," Egan said, "Amanda and I have exciting news about the farm." "Oh?" Wire-rimmed glasses looked interested. "We're using it for our honeymoon. Amanda fell in love with the idea of authentic countryside experiences." "How wonderfully rustic." A red-haired woman clapped her hands. "Like staying at a real working farm." "Exactly," Amanda beamed. "No five-star hotels, no luxury resorts, just pure, simple country living." "For how long?" Wire-rimmed glasses asked. 3 weeks, Egan said. "Maybe a month if we love it." "It's perfect for social media," Amanda added. "My followers love authentic lifestyle content. The contrast between Silicon Valley success and simple country values." Simple country values. Posted on Instagram to demonstrate how grounded and real she was, despite never having spent a day doing actual farm work. "What kind of crops do you grow?" Red Hair asked me. "Various genetics," I said. "Drought-resistant varieties, enhanced root development, sustainable yield improvements." Egan waved his hand dismissively. "Dad makes it sound more complicated than it is. Basically corn and soybeans. Basically corn and soybeans. Like the patented genetics that generated millions in licensing revenue were backyard gardening." "Still," Wire-rimmed glasses said, "agricultural innovation is fascinating from a business perspective. The patent licensing market alone is worth billions." "Absolutely," Egan nodded. "My company actually licenses agricultural patents. We pay over $2 million annually for drought-resistant genetics, $2.3 million to be precise, to Davis Agricultural Holdings, to me." "That's substantial," Wire-rimmed glasses said. "Who holds those patents?" "Some agricultural company," Egan said. "Davis Agricultural Holdings. Pretty standard licensing arrangement." The table went quiet. 5 people staring at Egan, then at me, then back at Egan. "Davis," Red Hair said slowly. "Like your last name." "Common name," Egan shrugged. "Pure coincidence." Amanda looked confused. "What are you all looking at?" Wire-rimmed glasses cleared his throat. "Egan, you said Davis Agricultural Holdings. Right, why? And your father is Bill Davis? So? Who owns a farm? Yes, but—" Egan stopped. His face went through several expressions in quick succession. Confusion, realization, disbelief, and finally something approaching panic. "Dad," he said quietly, "what's the full name of your operation?" I could have lied. Could have said Davis Family Farm or something equally generic. Could have preserved Egan's comfortable ignorance a little longer. Instead I said, "Davis Agricultural Holdings, Incorporated 1991. The silence stretched across the table like spilled wine, staining everything it touched. Amanda looked back and forth between Egan and me. "I don't understand." Egan's voice came out strained. "Dad, your company holds agricultural patents? 23 of them. And Technogrow licenses these patents? For $2.3 million annually. Since 2021. Egan's face had gone completely white. His colleagues stared with expressions ranging from amazement to second-hand embarrassment. "Egan," wire-rimmed glasses said gently. "You've been paying your father's company for 3 years?" Egan nodded numbly. "And you didn't know?" Another nod. Amanda's voice cut through the silence like broken glass. "Are you telling me that your simple farmer father owns the patents your company depends on?" Egan couldn't speak. I could have helped him, could have softened the blow, made excuses, protected his dignity. Instead, I stood up. "I should go. Don't want to complicate your corporate lunch with family business." Egan found his voice. "Dad, wait. Enjoy your honeymoon planning," I said. "I'm sure you'll figure out the accommodations." I left Egan sitting at that table, surrounded by colleagues who now knew the truth. The simple farmer he'd been condescendingly dismissive of for years was actually the patent holder his entire career depended on. The elevator ride down felt longer than usual. Friday morning, April 18th, I was reviewing quarterly reports when my attorney called. "Bill, the Technogrow situation is ready to proceed. Federal marshals will serve papers this morning." "What's the timeline?" "They're at the building now. Egan should be receiving the cease and desist within the hour." I thanked him and hung up. 33 years of building toward this moment. Not revenge, justice. There's a difference. My phone rang 23 minutes later. "Dad!" Egan's voice was pure panic. "There are federal marshals at my office." "Federal marshals? They're asking about patent violations. They mentioned your name." "Interesting. Dad, I don't understand what's happening." "Maybe you should ask them." "They want to see me in the lobby, with my legal team." "Then you better not keep them waiting." I hung up and drove to Palo Alto. Not to help Egan. He'd made his bed with arrogance and assumptions. I drove to witness the moment when reality educated my son about respect. The Technogrow lobby had been transformed into a legal battleground. Federal Marshal James Rodriguez stood near the reception desk with 2 colleagues, all wearing crisp uniforms and serious expressions. Egan paced nearby, his usual executive confidence completely shattered. Kelsey Collins, Technogrow's chief legal officer, studied documents with the intensity of someone realizing her company was in serious trouble. I entered through the main doors just as Marshal Rodriguez called for attention. "Ladies and gentlemen, I'm serving formal notice regarding patent violation case number 2024 CV 1847. His voice carried the authority of federal law. Technogrow Solutions is in violation of intellectual property rights held by Davis Agricultural Holdings. Egan spotted me across the lobby. His face showed relief, confusion, and dawning horror in rapid succession. "The complaint alleges unauthorized use of patented genetic modifications in commercial agricultural products," Marshal Rodriguez continued. "Specifically, U.S. Patent 8,734,521 for drought-resistant corn genetics, and U.S. Patent 9,126,783 for enhanced wheat root development." Kelsey Collins looked up from her documents. "Egan, these patents are registered to William Davis of Davis Agricultural Holdings." "That's my father," Egan said weakly. "Your father owns the patents we've been licensing?" "Apparently." "Egan," Kelsey's voice carried the sharp edge of legal panic. "You've been signing licensing agreements with your father's company for 3 years without knowing it?" "I thought it was just a coincidence. The name Davis. It's common." Marshal Rodriguez handed Egan a thick envelope. "Formal cease and desist order. Technogrow must immediately halt all production utilizing Davis Agricultural Holdings patents pending resolution of this violation." "Violation?" Egan looked genuinely confused. "We pay licensing fees. The licensing agreement requires full disclosure of corporate relationships," Kelsey said, reading quickly. "Specifically, any family connections between patent holders and company executives must be reported to the board of directors." "I didn't know? That's the problem, Egan. Due diligence is your responsibility." Marshal Rodriguez gestured to me. "Mr. William Davis, patent holder and complainant." I approached the group calmly. Egan stared at me like I was a stranger. "Dad, I don't understand. Why are federal marshals involved?" "Because intellectual property violations are federal crimes, Egan. But we pay you. Your company gets licensing fees." "Davis Agricultural Holdings receives licensing fees," I corrected.
but the licensing agreement was signed under false pretenses. Kelsey Collins nodded grimly. The contract requires disclosure of any family relationships.
Egan signed as TechnoGrow's representative without revealing his connection to the patent holder. I didn't know there was a connection. Ignorance isn't a legal defense, Marshal Rodriguez said. The violation stands. I opened my briefcase and handed Egan a folder. 23 patents, Egan. All registered to Davis Agricultural Holdings. All licensed to TechnoGrow without proper family disclosure. Egan's hands shook as he flipped through patent certificates. U.S. Patent 8,734,521. U.S. Patent 9,126,783. U.S. Patent 7,892,445. Page after page of innovations he'd never bothered to learn about. Dad, you developed all of these? Over 33 years while you were telling people I grow vegetables. Kelsey Collins was calculating on her phone. Egan, if these patents are invalidated due to disclosure violations, our entire agricultural technology line becomes worthless. How worthless? $15 million in annual revenue. Gone. Egan's face went white. His stock options, his bonuses, his entire career, all tied to company performance that depended on patents he'd never known existed. There's more, Marshal Rodriguez said. The patent holder is requesting $18.7 million in damages for 3 years of improperly licensed use. 18 million? Egan's voice cracked. I handed him another document. Federal Agricultural Assessment of Davis Agricultural Holdings 2024. Total asset valuation. $180 million. Egan stared at the number. Dad, you're worth $180 million. Yes, but you live on a farm. You drive an old pickup truck. I live simply because I choose to, Egan, not because I have to. Kelsey Collins looked up from her frantic legal research. Mr. Davis, is there any possibility of resolving this violation without federal prosecution? That depends on TechnoGrow's board of directors and my son's understanding of respect. Egan was still staring at the patent certificates. Dad, all those times I said you were just a farmer. You said I grew vegetables. You said farming wasn't complicated. You said I should take business courses to learn about real agricultural companies. I didn't know. You didn't ask. For 33 years, you didn't ask. Marshal Rodriguez checked his watch. Mr. Davis, we need a formal response to the federal complaint. I looked at Egan, really looked at him. My son. The boy I'd raised, educated and supported. The man who'd grown so ashamed of his father that he'd excluded me from his own wedding. Egan, I said quietly, do you understand what Davis Agricultural Holdings actually does? He shook his head. We develop genetic solutions for global food security. Our drought-resistant corn feeds millions of people in sub-Saharan Africa. Our enhanced wheat varieties prevent crop failures across 3 continents. We don't just grow vegetables, son, we grow hope. Egan's eyes filled with tears. Dad, I'm sorry. Sorry doesn't fix 3 years of patent violations, Egan. What do you want? I handed him one final document. Federal court hearing Monday morning. You'll appear as TechnoGrow's representative to explain why your company should retain licensing rights despite disclosure violations. Egan read the court summons with shaking hands. And Egan? I paused at the lobby door. The judge is Patricia Thompson. She's been a family friend for 20 years. She knows exactly what kind of farmer I am. I left Egan standing in that lobby, surrounded by federal marshals and legal documents, finally understanding that his embarrassing farmer father controlled his entire professional future. The ride home felt like the first day of the rest of our lives. Monday morning arrived gray and cold, perfect weather for federal court. I wore my best suit, navy blue, tailored, expensive, the kind of suit that commands respect in rooms where respect matters. Egan arrived at the courthouse looking like he hadn't slept in days. His usual executive confidence had been replaced by something I'd never seen in him before. Humility, born of genuine consequence. Judge Patricia Thompson entered the courtroom with the bearing of someone who'd spent 25 years making decisions that shaped lives. She knew me as Bill Davis, Federal Advisory Board member and agricultural innovator. Today, she would know Egan as my son, the son who'd never bothered to understand what his father actually did. Case number 2024 CV 1847, Judge Thompson announced. Davis Agricultural Holdings versus TechnoGrow Solutions regarding patent licensing violations. My attorney, Martin Webb, approached the bench with documentation that represented 3 years of meticulous legal preparation.
We hadn't rushed into this action. We'd built an airtight case.
Your Honor, the plaintiff seeks immediate injunction against Technogrow's use of 20 Retrie Continue, 3 patented agricultural technologies, plus damages totaling $18.7 million for 3 years of improperly licensed use. Judge Thompson reviewed the documents. Mr. Webb, please summarize the violation. Your Honor, Technogrow Solutions signed licensing agreements with Davis Agricultural Holdings without disclosing that company executive Egan Davis is the son of patent holder William Davis. This family relationship constitutes material information that must be disclosed under federal patent licensing regulations. Egan's attorney, a sharp woman named Sarah Mitchell, stood to respond. Your Honor, my client was genuinely unaware of the family connection. The name Davis is common, and he had no knowledge of his father's extensive patent portfolio. Judge Thompson looked directly at Egan. Mr.
Davis, you've been employed by Technogrow for how long? 8 years, Your Honor. And you've been signing patent licensing agreements for how long? 3 years, Your Honor. In 3 years of licensing patents from Davis Agricultural Holdings, you never once researched the patent holder's identity? Egan's face flushed. No, Your Honor. I assumed it was just a coincidental name match. You assumed. Judge Thompson's voice carried decades of courtroom authority. Mr. Davis, due diligence is not optional in patent licensing. It's your legal obligation. Sarah Mitchell tried to salvage the situation. Your Honor, while my client's oversight was regrettable, Technogrow has faithfully paid all licensing fees. No financial harm occurred to the patent holder. Martin Webb stood immediately. Objection, Your Honor. Financial harm is not the issue. Legal compliance is the issue. The licensing agreement explicitly requires disclosure of all family relationships between patent holders and corporate executives. Judge Thompson nodded. Sustained. Miss Mitchell, your client violated federal disclosure requirements regardless of payment compliance. I watched Egan absorb the legal reality. His career, his stock options, his entire professional identity, all built on patents he'd never bothered to understand, licensed from a company he'd never bothered to research, owned by a father he'd never bothered to respect. Mr. William Davis, Judge Thompson addressed me directly. What resolution does the plaintiff seek? I stood slowly. Your Honor, Davis Agricultural Holdings seeks 3 forms of relief. First, immediate cessation of all Technogrow production using our patented technologies until proper family disclosure is filed and approved by their board of directors. Egan's face went white. Immediate cessation meant Technogrow's agricultural division would shut down overnight. Second, I continued, financial penalties of $18.7 million for 3 years of improperly licensed use. Sarah Mitchell whispered urgently in Egan's ear. $18 million in penalties would bankrupt Technogrow's agricultural division and eliminate Egan's job entirely. Third, Your Honor, a court-mandated corporate governance review to ensure Technogrow implements proper due diligence procedures for all future patent licensing. Judge Thompson reviewed her notes. Mr. Davis, these penalties seem substantial for what appears to be an oversight rather than intentional fraud. Your Honor, I said carefully, this case represents more than oversight. It represents a pattern of institutional arrogance and family disrespect that enabled legal violations. Egan stared at me. Family disrespect in federal court. His personal behavior had become part of the legal record. Furthermore, I continued, Technogrow's marketing materials consistently claim ownership of revolutionary agricultural innovations developed entirely by Davis Agricultural Holdings. This misrepresentation constitutes commercial fraud. Martin Webb handed Judge Thompson a folder of Technogrow marketing materials, brochures, website screenshots, and press releases, all claiming credit for innovations they'd licensed from my company. Judge Thompson spent several minutes reviewing the evidence. The courtroom was silent except for the soft rustling of legal documents. Mr. Egan Davis, Judge Thompson finally said, approach the bench. Egan walked forward on unsteady legs. His entire career was about to be decided by a judge who knew his father as a respected agricultural innovator and Federal Advisory Board member. Mr. Davis, in your professional opinion, how would you characterize your father's work? Egan's voice barely carried across the courtroom. Your Honor, I called it simple farming. Simple farming. Yes, Your Honor. Are 23 patents simple farming, Mr. Davis? No, Your Honor. Is serving on the Federal Agricultural Advisory Board simple farming? No, Your Honor. Is developing drought-resistant genetics that feed millions of people simple farming? Egan's voice broke. No, Your Honor. Judge Thompson leaned forward. Mr. Davis,
Your ignorance of your father's accomplishments doesn't excuse your company's legal violations, but it does explain them. Arrogance breeds negligence." She returned to her bench and rendered judgment with swift finality. "The court finds Technogrow Solutions in violation of federal patent licensing disclosure requirements. The defendant will immediately cease all production using Davis Agricultural Holdings patents, pending proper family disclosure and board approval." Egan closed his eyes. "Furthermore, Technogrow will pay damages of $18.7 million for 3 years of improperly licensed use." Sarah Mitchell started to object, but Judge Thompson continued. "However, considering the long-term family relationship and the potential for reconciliation, this court will suspend the financial penalties, conditional on Technogrow's compliance with a court-mandated corporate governance review and the implementation of proper due diligence procedures." Relief flickered across Egan's face. "Mr. Egan Davis," Judge Thompson concluded, "you are personally barred from patent licensing decisions pending completion of a court-ordered education program on intellectual property law and family business ethics." The gavel fell with the finality of thunder. Egan turned to me with tears in his eyes, but I was already walking toward the exit. Justice had been served. Now came the harder part, rebuilding a relationship 33 years in the making. The stock market opened Tuesday morning with Technogrow Solutions down 34%. By lunch, it had fallen another 12 points. Tech blogs were calling it the patent disclosure disaster, and when due diligence goes wrong. I was in my office reviewing quarterly reports when Egan called. "Dad, I've been terminated." "I see. Effective immediately. The board voted unanimously last night." Technogrow's board had no choice. Egan's failure to disclose family connections had exposed the company to $18 million in potential damages and shut down their most profitable division. His stock options, worth $2.3 million just last week, were now worthless paper. "What will you do now?" "I don't know." Egan's voice sounded hollow. "Amanda broke our engagement this morning. Amanda Sterling, venture capitalist and image-conscious social climber, had cut ties the moment Egan's professional prospects evaporated. Her Instagram posts about authentic farm honeymoons had been quietly deleted. She said I misrepresented my family's financial situation," Egan continued. "Her father's pulling his firm's investment from Technogrow. He called me a liability they can't afford to associate with." The venture capital world is small and unforgiving. Egan's reputation for due diligence, the foundation of any executive's credibility, had been destroyed in a single court hearing. "The Palo Alto condo is in foreclosure," Egan said. "My entire down payment came from Technogrow stock options. Without the job, I can't make the mortgage payments." $12,400 monthly. Egan's lifestyle had been built on income that no longer existed, secured by stock options that had evaporated overnight. "Dad, I need to ask you something." "I'm listening. Can I come home?" Home. The farm Egan had dismissed as simple for 33 years. The place he'd been too embarrassed to show his colleagues. The inheritance he'd assumed would always be waiting whenever he decided to claim it. "Under what conditions?" "Any conditions you want." That afternoon, Egan arrived at the farm driving a rental car. His Tesla had been repossessed along with his Rolex and most of his designer wardrobe. He looked like a different person, humbled, uncertain, stripped of the arrogant confidence that had defined his adult identity. We sat at the same kitchen table where he'd dismissed me as an embarrassment 3 months earlier. "I read every patent certificate," Egan said quietly, "all 23 of them. And, Dad, I had no idea what you'd accomplished. The drought-resistant corn genetics alone have prevented famines in 12 countries. It's not about the patents, Egan. Then what? It's about respect, understanding, taking the time to see people for who they really are instead of who you assume them to be." Egan nodded, tears forming in his eyes. "I called you simple. I said you grew vegetables. I told Amanda you wouldn't fit in at the Ritz-Carlton." "Yes, you did. I excluded you from my wedding because I was ashamed of you." The admission hung between us like smoke from a dying fire, acrid, visible, impossible to ignore. "Egan, why were you ashamed?" "Because you didn't look successful. You dressed like a farmer, drove an old truck, lived simply. I thought success had to look like Silicon Valley. Expensive clothes, luxury cars, prestigious addresses. And now? Now I realize I was measuring worth by the wrong standards. You built something that matters. You feed people. You solve problems that affect millions. I moved money around and called it innovation. The next morning brought more consequences.
Silicon Valley Business Journal ran a front-page story. Tech executive's simple farmer father holds patents worth millions. The article detailed Egan's spectacular fall from grace and my previously hidden agricultural empire. LinkedIn was brutal. Egan's professional network, the colleagues who'd once celebrated his success, posted comments ranging from disbelief to mockery. Egan Davis didn't know his own father owned the patents his company used? What kind of due diligence is that? Imagine being so arrogant you never bothered to research your own family's business. This is why Silicon Valley needs more humility and less assumption. But the most painful consequence came from Egan's former colleagues at Technogrow. Kelsey Collins, the chief legal officer who'd been frantically researching patent law during the federal marshal's visit, published a corporate governance blog post titled "The Davis Case: Why Family Disclosure Matters." Her analysis was thorough and damning. Executive arrogance combined with institutional negligence created a perfect storm of legal liability. Egan Davis's failure to understand his own family's business represents a cautionary tale about the importance of due diligence in patent licensing. The post went viral in legal circles. Egan's name became synonymous with professional negligence and executive overconfidence. 3 weeks later, Egan was working in our south greenhouse, learning about soil pH and nutrient management. His hands, once soft from executive office work, were developing calluses from real labor. "This is harder than I thought," he said, adjusting irrigation settings under my supervision. "Most valuable work is—" "Dad, can I ask why you never told me about the patents, about Davis Agricultural Holdings, about your real success?" I considered the question carefully. "Because I wanted you to respect the work, not the money. I wanted you to see value in what we do here, not just in what it generates. But I never saw any value at all." "No, you didn't." Egan straightened, wiping sweat from his forehead. "I have a confession to make." "What's that?" "When Amanda and I were planning to use the farm for our honeymoon, she wanted to hire a photographer to document our authentic country experience. We were going to post it on social media as content about embracing simple values." "While living in luxury using patents you didn't know existed." "Exactly. The irony is perfect, isn't it? We wanted to perform authenticity while completely missing the real thing." I handed Egan a soil sample to test. "Egan, what have you learned from this?" He looked out over the 847 acres that had seemed so simple 3 months ago. Now he knew about the research labs, the federal partnerships, the patent portfolio, the global impact of our work. "I learned that assumptions are expensive," Egan said, "and that my father is the most successful person I've ever known." "Why?" "Because you built something that matters. And you did it quietly without needing anyone's applause. For the first time in 33 years, my son finally saw me clearly." 6 months later, Egan sat across from me in Judge Thompson's chambers. Not for legal proceedings this time, for family trust modifications. "Egan," Judge Thompson said, "your father is amending the inheritance terms. Do you understand the new conditions?" Egan nodded. "I have to work in agricultural operations for 2 years before gaining access to any Davis Agricultural Holdings assets. And you agree to these terms?" "Yes, Your Honor." The amended trust reflected lessons learned through consequence. Egan would inherit everything eventually, but only after proving he understood what he was inheriting. Judge Thompson signed the modifications and smiled at both of us. "Bill, you've raised a good man. Sometimes good men just need better perspectives." Egan had indeed gained perspective. 6 months of working the farm, learning about soil chemistry and crop genetics, meeting with federal agricultural officials, and understanding the complexity of what we'd built together. He'd also gained something more valuable, genuine respect for work that didn't require external validation. "Dad, I have something to tell you," Egan said as we drove home from the courthouse. "What's that?" "I've been accepted to UC Davis's graduate program in agricultural sciences." This surprised me. "When did you apply?" 3 months ago. I want to understand the science behind what we do here. Really understand it, not just the business applications. Egan had spent his entire adult life running from agriculture, only to discover he'd been running from his calling. "There's something else," Egan continued. "I've been working with Kelsey Collins. Remember her from Technogrow's legal team?" "The chief legal officer." "Right. She's starting her own firm specializing in agricultural patent law. She wants me to join as a partner once I complete my graduate studies." "Doing what?" "Helping agricultural innovators navigate patent applications and licensing agreements, making sure other families don't go through what we went through." The irony was beautiful. Egan's spectacular failure had revealed his true expertise, understanding the intersection of family dynamics and intellectual property law. His cautionary tale was becoming his professional specialty. Kelsey says my experience gives me unique insight into patent disclosure challenges. I've become the poster child for what not to do, which apparently qualifies me to help others do it right. We pulled into the farm driveway, past fields Egan now knew by name and purpose. He could identify drought-resistant genetics by sight, explain soil nutrient requirements, and discuss federal agricultural policy with genuine understanding.
Dad, can I ask you something personal?
Of course.
Do you forgive me? For the wedding, for the dismissal, for 33 years of not seeing you clearly? I parked the truck and considered the question. Forgiveness suggests injury that needs healing. But watching Egan discover his calling, seeing him develop genuine agricultural knowledge, witnessing his transformation from arrogant executive to humble student, that felt more like completion than forgiveness. Egan, I was never angry with you. You weren't? I was disappointed. There's a difference. Anger burns hot and fades quickly. Disappointment runs deeper but teaches more. What did it teach you? That respect can't be demanded. It has to be earned through understanding. I spent 33 years waiting for you to ask about my work instead of simply showing you its value. Egan nodded thoughtfully. And what did it teach me? You tell me. It taught me that success isn't about image or status symbols. It's about contribution, impact, building something that matters beyond your own ego. We walked toward the house together, father and son, mentor and student, partners in an enterprise Egan finally understood. Dad, there's one more thing. What's that? I'd like to invite you to my graduation, UC Davis, next spring. I'll be there. And maybe, Egan hesitated, maybe someday when I've earned it, you could introduce me to your Federal Agricultural Advisory Board colleagues, not as your son trying to network, but as someone who genuinely understands agricultural innovation. When you've earned it, I agreed. How will I know when that is? I smiled, remembering Margaret's words about making Egan see what we'd built. You'll know when other people start asking for your advice instead of your connections. That evening, Egan called Amanda Sterling. Not to reconcile. Their relationship had been built on mutual superficiality, but to apologize for misrepresenting his family's situation. I wasn't honest about who my father is, Egan told her. Not financially, but fundamentally. He's the most accomplished person I know, and I was too arrogant to see it. Amanda's response, according to Egan, was predictably focused on the financial aspects she'd missed. Some people never learn to see beyond surface value, but Egan had learned. Finally, at 31 years old, my son understood that worth isn't measured by stock options or luxury cars. It's measured by impact, contribution, and the courage to do meaningful work without requiring applause. 6 months ago, Egan had excluded me from his wedding because I embarrassed him. Today, he introduced me as his father with unmistakable pride. The quiet revolution was complete. Have you ever had a family member who didn't see your true worth? Let me know in the comments how you handled it. Sometimes the people closest to us are the last to understand what we've built.